Okay, so, well, hello everyone. This is Gonzalo-Gil from Tekniker, a research and development center in Spain. And well, all these days we have been talking about how can we actually generate data, value around the data. For example, today we have been talking about digital product passports, but in order to do that, we need to share data between different stakeholders. So, considering that, and in the context of the management of building permits, today I will present what we call a platform of platforms that we have built in the Horizon Europe project DigiChecks, which aims to foster the collaboration between all the stakeholders that are involved in this process by sharing data between their different platforms. So when we talk about the management of building permits, we have to think that this is just a complex process in which we have to manage that we comply with different laws and different requirements that also depend on different countries, different regions, or even municipalities. So considering that and the low level of digitalization in the construction sector, this process is actually made by sharing data and manually reviewing all the data that we have in order to check compliance with these laws. So this now leads to considerable delays when we talk about obtaining the final building permits. So in order to resolve this issue, the Horizon Europe project DigiChecks was born with the aims of facilitating the management of building permits by building a digital framework which aims to foster the collaboration between all the participants that are involved in this process by sharing data between all their different platforms. So in order to build that framework, the first thing that we thought was which are the main challenges when we talk about the management of building permits, about digitalizing and automating this process. So first of all, as I have already said, when we talk about the management of building permits, we have to think that we have different countries with different regions and different municipalities with different laws. So we have to provide flexibility to check compliance with that different laws. Second, in order to check compliance with that requirements, we need to share and process data that is in different proprietary formats. And finally, data sharing is of utmost importance to do that process, so we need to enable this data between all the stakeholders that are involved in checking compliance with all these requirements. So considering that, this leads to what we define as the main needs in order to be the platform. First of all, we, due to the fact that this is a complex process, we do not have to provide one-step solution that will fit all the compliance checks, because this is impossible, but we have to provide solutions that will enable to integrate all the tools in the form of services that are provided by the different stakeholders involved in that process. Second, as I already said, we have different laws depending on countries, regions, or municipalities. So we need to provide no one-fit solution, but a solution that will enable to integrate all these services depending on the needs for each permit. Third, and related to how to share data that is stored in proprietary formats, we need to define a common language to share all this data so that we can agree on which kind of data we are sharing and which means all the data that we are sharing. And finally, we have to provide what is called the data sovereignty. That is the self-determination of the different owners regarding how their data is going to be used in order to check compliance with the different requirements or laws. So considering these needs, we have defined the main principles of the framework. First of all, we do not need a centralized infrastructure. We need a distributed infrastructure in which we have the different tools in form of services that are provided by the different stakeholders involved in this process. Second, we have an open infrastructure, so different organizations can be included in this platform in order to enrich different compliance checks that are required for a specific building permit. Then the framework should use a common language which should follow widely accepted standards in order to define the meaning of all the data that will be shared to check compliance. And finally, but not least, we need to ensure trust and data sovereignty in this framework so that all the participants are aware of how their data can or not be used. So considering all these things, we have defined an approach in order to build a digital framework for the DigiChecks project, which is mainly divided in two parts. First, in order to provide that flexibility to manage building permits for different countries, regions, or even municipalities, we deploy an orchestration of compliance checks, which actually know which kind of compliance checks are needed for each kind of law or requirement that should be met for each, for example, country. And then in order to enable this interoperable, trusted and sovereign data sharing between the different services, we have built what is called a data space, which is a novel topic now fostered by the European Commission, which is actually a distributed infrastructure in which we have different services in the different platforms of the different participants, and in which we provide interoperable, trusted and sovereign data sharing between all these services. So I would like to go a bit into detail into the data space, because this is the main topic that we are trying to solve in the project. When we talk about data spaces, we have to think that we have a lot of services in order to provide that interoperable, trusted and sovereign data sharing, but we can divide this infrastructure in two main topics. The mandatory components that are mandatory in order to share data between two stakeholders, in this case, in order to manage the building permits, and then we have optional components that will generate added value around this data sharing. So talking about the mandatory components, this is just the connector, which is actually a technical components that enable the different organizations to easily share data between them, providing that interoperability, trusted and data sovereignty. And then we have a lot of services that will enrich this data sharing that we will see after. So when we talk about the connector, I would like to point out that the International Data Spaces Association has already defined the data space protocol, which is actually a protocol that should be followed in order to provide a set of data sets by an organization to negotiate different policies that can be defined for the usage of these data sets, and also to access these data sets in a standardized way so that we can understand to organizations how they would like to share the data. This is just now a de facto standard, but will be an ISO standard for the next year or next 2 years. So considering that protocol, in Tekniker we have developed what we call the Tekniker Data Space Connector, which actually is a solution that tries to enable different companies in a user-friendly manner to provide their data sets or to consume data sets that are provided in this data space, with the aim of facilitating the management of building permits by providing the 3 key pillars of a data space, which are interoperability, trust, and data sovereignty. So how does this connector actually work? So first of all, we have a metadata manager, which actually enables the organization to describe all the data sets that they want to provide to the data set in order to in this case, to manage the building permits, but also this component enables the organization to search for data sets that are available in the data space. Then we have the data space protocol in order to provide all this information in a standardized way, and the data planes, which actually enable us to share the data in the final steps once we have searched for data sets, negotiate policies, and so on. And finally, in order to provide trust and data sovereignty, we have a component that will enable us to implement access control based on different identities that can be included in the connector, and also policy engines to enforce those usage policies that we have defined through the data space protocol, and in order to ensure the data sovereignty. So considering this connector, which actually enables those organizations that want to be included in the process of managing builder permits, we have all the services, as I have already said, that will generate added value around this data sharing. First of all, we have the identity provider. As I have already said, the connector can be integrated with different identities in order to provide trust between both organizations that are going to share data to manage building permits. Then we have the vocabulary. This vocabulary, in the context of the management of building permits, should provide the meaning of all the data that will be shared, in this case, for the construction domain. Then we have the clearinghouse that will enable to track how data has been shared in all the life cycle. Then the broker, that is like a centralized catalog for all the data space in which you can search or publish different data sets that are provided by the connector. And finally, we have an app store, which actually provide different apps that can be downloaded in the connector in order to just make a simple process of the data before or after sharing or receiving the data. And well, thank you, everyone. This is all from my side. I think that now it's time for questions.